All right. So John II in A Storm of Swords, or John II in Roman numerals. It just kind of sounds like the name of a pope. I know I keep saying that. Uninteresting, you say, dear listener? Well, let's see. John II became pope on 2nd of January 533 AD. Apparently the first pope to adopt a new name upon elevation to papacy. Aha! Yeah? What do you say to that? No, but no. This John anyway. No. This John, our John, is right now is all in shock because he has just seen mammoths, which I don't think Pope John II ever did. He has seen what's a group of mammoths called? It's a group of elephants is a herd or a parade, if you can believe that. So I imagine mammoths too hang around in herds or parades. These mammoths are parading with their riders, who happen to be giants. So yeah, definitely a Dear Diary moment for John, because we readers see these giants for the first time. We also get a good description. Anything between 10 and 14 feet tall, arms longer than feet, as woolly as their mammoths, all muscles, no neck, the kind of people you don't want to piss off, basically. So Tormund greets one of them like they go way back. Hey, how you doing? All right, okay. They exchange a joke in a language John doesn't understand. A joke at John's expenses, as it turns out. Okay, I should probably recap. John is now part of the free folk rank and file, kind of like on a trial sort of trial basis before he gets hired, having been accepted by Mans Raider, and the setting is north of the Wall, of course, at a location that will be disclosed shortly. And right now he's having a chat with Tormund. He's feeding him some of his tall tales, Tormund is, mostly regarding the origins of his various nicknames. But John, he's also doing a bit of sleuthing here, because remember, he's still on a mission from Corin Halfhand to discover as much as he can about the wildlings. Also, he remembers the Night Watch commanders wandering among them, as to what sort of MacGuffin the wildlings are looking for in these parts. And the nickname John is more interested to know the origins of is Horn Blower. Because he's good. He's good at putting two and two together, and he's thinking, what if what the wildlings are looking for is this legendary Horn of Winter, credited with waking the giants from the earth, and then when some dude called Joramum guy blew it. What if it's that? Because the horn might have some magical powers too, other magical powers. And then again, George R. R. Martin is also good at planting red herrings and decoys here and there, so John might be following a false lead. We'll get there when we get there, dear listener. No spoilers here. I'll do my best. In this series, I will only be looking back and not forward. Tormund is also giving John some romantic advice vis-a-vis Ygritte, because he can tell she fancies him. I mean, she fancies John, not Tormund. Because you see, Tormund is this kind of like this body language expert. So he can tell. No, but seriously, you know how Ygritte is, you've read the previous chapters. She's always spooning with John whenever they make camp to get a bit of sleep. Be it as it may, John is all like, no, I took an oath, I will take no wife, and so on and so forth. Of course, he's not saying that stuff aloud, because that would blow his cover. But he does remember vividly of various times when Ygritte tried to get John to take his clothes off, as one does, like when she said, "Oh, you know nothing. Let's skinny dip in the icy river, huh? What say you? And you know what? This might be the first time the first of many times that this "you know nothing" catchphrase is uttered right there in this flashback. And Jon's recurrent thinking about it, or rumination, as psychologists call it, is beautifully written. It's beautifully written. It's just to show us how he's falling for her. Gradually he keeps thinking about her. Oh no, I don't want to. He's still thinking about her. He's falling for her more than he'd like to admit. Also, I'm not sure if this is also the first time that moon tea is introduced or explained as a potion used to get rid of unwanted pregnancies. Because Jon can't think of an excuse to give Tormund for turning Ygritte down. So he just goes, I don't want to father a bastard. Yeah, will that do as an explanation? And that is so not the right thing to say to Tormund, because he just goes, okay, well, first of all, if you didn't fancy her, why did you even steal her in the first place? Because around here, I will have you know, Mr. Snow, that what you did, capturing her at the point of your sword, sparing her life, yada, 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 that's courting procedure where I'm from, all right? Secondly, the concept of bastard is alien around here. There's no such thing. And ultimately, so what? It's her body, her choice, you know what I mean? If you do get her in trouble, she can always have a cup of the old moon tea and problem solved. And this moon tea will become important in various sub plots in the series. Although in the Seven Kingdoms, it's prepared by maesters, whereas here, I don't remember coming across any mentions of, witch doctors, healers, or whatever. Though I'm sure there must be some among the free folk. Let me know if you have any info, dear listener. And we also get to take a look at other types of wildlings traveling with them. Not just the giants, but also the Thenns, led by this Magnar guy called Stur. We met him in the previous chapter, as well as the fierce ice river clans, who were said to feast on human flesh. Actually, the HBO series merged these two peoples, showing the Thenns like total monsters, cannibals and whatnot, which really, I think, is a disservice to the Thenns, because they're really described as a folk with some sort of code of honor here in the book series, or at least, if nothing else, more disciplined than the rest of the free folk. More like a military sort of proper or a force. Sorry. And then there's Varamir, a warging master, or whatever the rank is called among the warging community. When someone can warg with more than one animal, even maybe simultaneously, unless I'm mistaken, I'm not sure. Anyway, he's always shown with his entourage, a bear, 3 wolves, and a shadow cat, this Varamir, whom we'll encounter again. And he gives Jon the creeps, apparently. And this is another character merge, another example of a character merging that they did in the TV series, because Mackenzie Crook, from the British Office TV series, he plays both Varamir and that other warg dude, Orell, the guy who could warg with an eagle, and then using the eagle as an outrider of sorts, killed by Jon when he captured Ygritte right before getting her, right before allowing her to escape. This was back in Clash of Kings. So anyway, and then it gets really sad because Jon keeps thinking about his mission, right? And he says to himself, I've got to remember where my loyalty really lies, etc., etc. And I'm doing this for and who I'm doing this for, you know, and which is basically everyone I ever knew and loved, and they're all in Winterfell. And he thinks about Bran and Rickon still in Winterfell, because news haven't reached him that his two brothers are believed dead all across the Seven Kingdoms, which isn't even true, but whatever. And he's also thinking about the Feast of the First Men, which is where they're headed and where he thinks his comrades in arms are based right now. But are they, though? Because in the prologue of this book, we last saw them about to be attacked by the others, you know, with a capital O. So, what to make of that? So Jon, of course, doesn't know any of that, because it is well renowned, it is well known that Jon knows very little, if nothing at all. Jon doesn't know any of that, and he's all engaged on, you know, sort of strategical thinking, up there on the Fist of the First Men, 300 watchmen, weight, tough as nails, he thinks. And it's not like they can hope to defeat an army 100 times their number, but if only they could get to Mance and his entourage. After all, Mance is the only leader that's really keeping this whole army together, you know, ideologically speaking. Trouble is, Mance and his guys are right at the center of the marching column. But then again, the vanguard are all scattered bands on foot, no horses, and undisciplined, as we hear for like the 100th time. And so who knows? So he's pondering all these tactical points, and before he knows it, they catch up with Tormund and the others, as well as Ygritte, who immediately trots beside him. And this is where, for some reason, Ygritte reminds him of his sister Arya. You know, he looks at Ygritte and goes, oh, that, I don't know why, my thoughts suddenly dwell on my sister Arya. I don't know. I don't know, gentle listener, if that's some foreshadowing of sorts. I don't know. I'm afraid it's wasted on me, try as I might. And this is right after he's done his routine flexing of the burned fingers of his sword hand, Maester's orders. And I love that, because it's the same hand that he used to muss up Arya's hair. So that's two of Jon's most recurrent, you know, mannerisms brought together within the space of 2 paragraphs. It's kind of cool. So he and Ygritte discuss the giants. Yeah, did you see them? The giants? Were you impressed? Etc. etc. At which point the free folk burst into a song randomly about giants, and the giants. No, it's actually a very sad song, and I believe it's the first song that we get to have on page completely unabridged, you know, in its entirety. Am I right on this? I mean, we've had bits and pieces of the Bear and the Maiden Fair, the Dornish man's wife, but I think this is the first song we have in its entirety, like 16 verses. I might be wrong, I don't know. And it's funny because the song is all about the free folk and how they destroyed the giants, you know, way of life. They basically drove them to extinction, which isn't true, because they're still around. We just had evidence of that. Okay, so it's funny. So okay, perhaps it's not funny, haha. But my point is that it's a song that was clearly composed by the free folk, because the giants have their own language, and something tells me that these same lyrics don't necessarily rhyme as they do in this rendition of, I guess, common language, in a common language. And it's a song that never fails to move Ygritte to tears. And Jon's going to say, well, what are you? Why are you even crying? It's not like the giants are actually extinct. I mean, I saw like hundreds of them, hundreds. You hear that? Yeah, that's some scary. In the HBO series, we might have seen like 3 or 4, at best. But no, this is the actual, size and caliber of the army that the Seven Kingdoms, where the North first will be eventually facing, I guess, if that's the direction that the wildlings are headed towards. Anyway, so I saw like hundreds of giants. What are you crying about? They're alive and well. At which point, Ygritte just gives him her usual catchphrase, which runs something along the lines of, "Oh, Jon Snow, I must say, once again you demonstrate that your knowledge and awareness of things is at best poor and limited. Indeed, close to naught. Do carry out your own research, will you?" Or something to that effect. At this point, Rattleshirt informs Jon that he's kindly requested to go before Mansraider, and he does it in a rather unorthodox way. Why, rude, I might even say, i.e., by sending his eagle to attack him and nearly gauge his eyes out. What a nice guy, this Rattleshirt. Incidentally, the eagle is called Orel, because it's the same eagle that used to mind meld, if you'll excuse the Vulcan terminology, with the above mentioned Orel, whom Jon killed way back in the Skirling Pass. When he stole Ygritte in free folk parlance. So anyway, okay, all right. Tormund is all like, well, if the mans wants to see you, so wants to see Jon, best be going, So don't keep him waiting. So off he goes with Rattleshirt and Ygritte, who's all like, I'm coming too. Okay, so off they go, and after much riding, there it is, looming in the distance, the fist of the first men, which Jon, as I said, expected to be manned by 300 night watchmen, ready to make their last stand, against the free folk. But the Lord of Bones assures us, no. Mance is up top, and he has questions for you. Surely something is amiss here. What's going on? So as they approach the south side to go up top to see, and as they do that, they see dead horses all around the ring wall, and as they keep mounting, things get more gory and splatter. While the wildling perched, the wildlings are perched, to casually loot the horses, because what else would you do, And Jon sees ravens pecking at the head, at the heads of the bones, the flesh really of these dead horses, and that makes him wonder. Wait a minute, if these are our own ravens, does that mean that Sam never got around to send any messages back to Castle Rock? Whatever shit went down here, the ravens are still here. Are they our ravens? Are they, Night's Watch ravens? We'll find out, I think. Yeah, no, we will. Soon enough. And also Chet. Do you remember Chet from the prologue? That sad, bitter guy. Well, now all Jon can see is the remains of the dogs that Chet was tasked with looking after. So dogs are gone too, and there's Mance right up top of the feast, surrounded by his usual, posse, his usual entourage. And there's Steer the Magner. Love that title. Magner sounds like an Irish cider. There's Harma, the dog's head. Jarl. Is it Jarl? It could be Jarl. No? Oh no. I guess. And then, because Viking yarn. So there's Varamir, this uber warg who controls wolves, and a shadow cat. This is kind of like a Tarzan of the North, you know. And Mance is wearing his famous black coat striped with red silk, remember? From his story, what made him decide to desert the Night Watch. But he doesn't look impressed. He's not impressed. And he goes, all right, Jon, listen up, mate. You clearly lied to me. Huh? Now, if you want to keep your tongue, both your eyes and so on, various parts of your body, how about you start telling me the truth? Huh? To which, Jon just stutters. What? And Mance really goes into full Samuel L. Jackson mode. He goes, say what one more I don't do a very good S.L. Jackson impression. Say what one more time. I double dare you. Besides, the what is plain enough, dear Jon. Your Black Crow brothers died here. And I love how George R. Martin here bypasses the whole description of dead human bodies, because we only read about dead horses and dogs, but he just has Mance tell the reader, look, your brothers died here. So we assume, show don't tell. We assume that there must be dead bodies lying all around. There's the show don't tell. Although this is probably more like, tell don't tell. I don't know. Or wait, have most of the dead bodies started walking again? Why aren't we given a proper explanation? Because, if they turn into whites, that's WIGHTS. Because Mance makes it no secret that he knows the Night Watchmen have been killed by the dead, as he puts it. More specifically, when the dead walk, walls and stakes and swords mean nothing. I can't help but think about the George Romero movies taglines when there's no, is that where it's from? When there's no room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And this is the case here, apparently. Even though 7 hells are well at Westerosi disposal, but no. So so what we don't know. Be it as it may, Mance is really impatient now. He said, "Don't you say what one more time, or you're dead meat." Because he wants to know. What he wants to know is how many Black Crows there were here, and Jon makes the mistake of saying, what is just 300 of us? Us? Whoops, I mean 300 of them. Them, it no longer belong. Them, that's what I meant. So Mance is all like, now you're getting somewhere, Johnny boy. You forgot to mention this. This Zack Snyder army of 300. When you told me that you were north of the wall, just, casually doing a bit of ranging, seasoning, as you called it. You, Corin Halfhand, and only 3 other dudes. Yeah, well, you were like 295 short. All right, mate. So who was in charge? And he goes, here in this tent. Who was in charge? Because this tent clearly belonged to your commanding officer. So who was it? And Jon just keeps trying to buy himself more time, while his life flashes before his eyes, as I imagine, because he's like contemplating all sorts of, outcomes. Maybe I could kill Mance, which would obviously be the last thing I do, but, what do I do? Maybe I can, just one step further. So he just goes, who was in charge? Why did you not find the CO's commanding officer's dead body? At which point Mance really loses it. All right, mate. First of all, it's rude to answer a question with another question. So for the last time, okay, all right. It was, in fact, J.R. Mormont himself, the old bear, the Mormont guy, Lord Commander Mormont, okay? Which really raises more questions than it answers, because, okay, so who's in charge of Castle Black now? Well, I'm glad you asked. Why, it's Lord Stuart Bowen Marsh, acting Castellan at present. Okay. Which is good, because he's better at counting swords than actually handling them. So, if that's the case, we, free folk, have practically won the battle. The Castle Black belongs to us. All of your bases belong to us, as the famous tagline read. If you've never heard of that, just look it up. It's hilarious. So at this point, Mance decides that Jon is telling the truth and starts giving everyone some homework. Varamir is off to have his dogs sniff, for whites, others. I'm still unclear about the difference. Whites, the others are the original guys and the creatures, and the whites are people who turned into... I think that's the case. Sorry, I think that's the case. So a Rattleshirt always want to stir some shit. He goes, all right, Mance, now that Jon has outlived his usefulness, can I defrag him, please? Can I just boil his bones to add to my collection? Please. And it's at this point that Ygritte basically saves Jon's life by saying, oh, look, this man is mine. We sort of like gives it the whole gesture, the loop with the thumb and finger in one hand and the finger going through it with the other hand. Hey, that's what she did. I'm not the one who's being vulgar. Because we do the old, dance under the same sheepskin cloak that Mance gave us. Like, we do that like every night, and so yeah, there's that. And it's weird because Mance, that's what moves Mance. He looks all pleased and goes, okay then, tell you what, Jon, you'll go with Stir and Jarl or Jarl tomorrow. Guess what? You're going to scale the wall and take Castle Black. That's right. Let's see how loyal you are now. You're not uncomfortable with heights, are you? No, because 700 feet, But yeah, okay, yep. You're going to be one of us. Well done. Welcome back aboard. You were saved by Ygritte, because I wouldn't dare, ruin a relationship by slaughtering you. That's interesting. That's an interesting approach. Yeah. So, okay, I'm actually paraphrasing this dialogue here, okay? But yeah. Rattleshirt is all disappointed. Stir is not too keen either. He's not too keen at the idea of attacking the Night Watch with Jon next to him, because he clearly still doesn't trust him. But Mance figures the plan makes sense because Jon knows the defenses and all that. And meanwhile, Rattleshirt is charged with keeping the column moving, because he figures George Mormont and whoever else survived this mess had to run back in the direction of Castle Black. And by the way, I'm saying this mess, but what do you think? Do you think? What do you think about this whole thing? Because we didn't see the mess. We didn't see what happened. Are you one of those people who find it frustrating that this whole massacre, as we imagine, must have taken place, which the prologue set the reader up to expecting, in print, fully described and all, never actually takes place on screen? What do you think? Is it frustrating, or is it because I don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, I mean, knowing Georgie boy, it's likely. I said I don't want to spoil it in case you happen to be a first time reader, but knowing Georgie Boy, he would probably give us some flashback of sorts that describes the attack on the Night Watch at the Feast of the First Men. Who knows? He might. And or maybe, or how about this? This is interesting. What if it's actually a great idea because it lends? It's like it's like Alien. You ever Sir Ridley Scott, Alien. It's scary until you see the alien, the what's it called? The morphing. Xenomorph, that's the word. Until you see the xenomorph in its full, in full, then as long as it's just a shadow, it's scarier. So by the fact that we don't see the others described, we only see the aftermath of their attack. Doesn't that lend the others an even more ominous sort of aura of mystery? Well, I don't know. Anyway, fear not. At some point, there is bound to be a description. At this point, Rattleshirt has just enough time for one last threat. He said, "Okay, all right. So I don't get to kill Jon. I don't get to boil his bones. Clearly, this is not my day." Oh, so he just leaves, just muttering one more final threat, and Jon draws his long claw, which he often refers to as his bastard sword. Just a gift from Lord Commander Mormont, and the sword, it's the way they gave it to him as a gift, because Jorah Mormont was unworthy of it. You see, after what he did, selling humans as property, as commodities, and then fleeing the Seven Kingdoms to avoid justice. But that's another story. So Rattleshirt draws his own sword, and but a growl from Ghost. Oh yeah, that's right. Ghost is here. They kept him at Craster's, as far as I remember. In the HBO series, they kept Ghost at Craster's keep the whole time. But Ghost is actually here. Next to Jon, defending him from any possible threat, but not from Ygritte. Yeah, that's interesting. So a growl from Ghost convinces, what's his name, Rattleshirt, that it's probably not such a good idea. So he just makes himself scarce with a curse, and off he goes. So yeah, great chapter. Interesting developments, and we're still left unsatisfied as to what these others look like. We keep hearing them mentioned. The others take you. That's a very common insult. But still, what do they look like? Now, the chapter concludes with Jon saying to Ygritte, Look, dearie," in his most patronizing, "Look, dearie, you didn't have to lie to me. I mean, it's not that I don't appreciate it, don't get me wrong, but she wastes no time. She goes, okay, listen, Johnny boy. First of all, libraries could be filled with the things you don't know. There, I said it. However, look, all I said was that we had a good old time under the sheep cloak, a bit of the wild time with a wildling. Why not? Do the wild thing. And so now, we better do it for real. Because you don't want to make me a liar. She's clever. So see what happened here, huh? So Jon Snow, listen up, yeah? If you can hear me. You will have your life spared, but at the condition that you sleep with Ygritte. Ha! which, to me, seems like the sort of thing for which the expression no-brainer was coined. Call me crazy. Go ahead, do call me crazy. Of course, there's that little matter of having to scale a 700-foot wall, which I don't know about you. I don't even want to know what kind of equipment they're going to use. You think it's free climbing with just bits of I don't know. Probably just the same equipment they use for fishing under the ice. Yeah, it's sharp. What do you call those? The hooks. Yeah, fish hooks. Oh, this is dreadful. So yeah. I don't think that's a huge spoiler if I tell you there will be casualties. If they ever get there, okay, one should expect casualties. That's all I'm going to say. And not to mention, then even if they do make it on top of the wall, then they have to, climbing back down, although there is this kind of like liver sort of elevator type thing. But yeah, and then there's the little matter of having to go into battle against your own sworn brothers, which sucks. I mean, this is but this comes with the territory. Jon is all in full Donnie Brasco mode. Is the is the kind of person who is now questioning sort of like where his loyalties really lie and what is he gonna do? And yeah, I got myself in a bit of a pickle there, he thinks to himself. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge, and indeed we'll scale that wall when we get there. So, good chapter. I enjoyed it just as much as I'm going to enjoy the next. Yeah, that's right. Always keep a positive, optimistic attitude. And, thank you for sticking with me up to now, dear listener. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed this rambling commentary, as much as I did. And I guess I'll see you again, either in the next, or in a previous, or in indeed any other commentary. So, see you around. Ciao.